Okay, y'all. Y'all been asking for this video, and I've really been wrecking my brain trying to figure out how I can deliver it to you guys. And shout out to fellow YouTuber and coder. I think her name is Shamira. She has quite a few day in the life videos on her YouTube channel. And I watched those videos and came up with this idea from her that, you know, I could just blur my screen out. She shows a lot of videos where she's just working. She blurs her screen out and she does a voiceover. So I'm going to leave a link to her channel below because her videos are really dope. Thank you for this, inspiration, Shamira. So here's my version of a day in the life of a medical coder. So some of you guys had asked for a video like this, and I have the privilege of working quite a few instances. Like I do have a medical billing business. I also still have my 9 to 5 as a medical coder until my medical billing business blows up. And but until then, I am going to keep this 9 to 5 and continue to learn and to continue to code and continue to stay in the field. I really enjoy coding though. I also work from home and I also work in the office. So I'm a hybrid worker. So today I decided to film my in-office day because, I just thought it would be interesting and cool, interesting content. So usually now, my in-office days, I kind of save those for my cleanup days. I don't know. It's something about being in the office that I'm like, I can, think a little bit clearer. I'm more in my business mode. Plus, there's other coders in the office too that if I happen to get stuck on something, I can just kind of talk it out with another coder and get some clarity on that. But my in-office days, I strictly try to use them for my cleanup days. So I work my denials. I work any claims that the scrubbers hit that threw them back or rejected. I work any emails that I've gotten from any other departments that I felt like could hold off until I had a little bit more freer time. Things of that nature. Today, I just happened to not have any, cleanup to do. So I worked on my clinics. And the clinics that I code for are dermatology and behavioral health. But today was strictly dermatology. My dermatologist dropped a bunch of charts last night. And so I was like, oh my God, I was really caught up and now I'm not. And so my role as a coder in this facility is basically audit. Our providers drop their own charges and we just audit the charts just to make sure the charges that they dropped were the best ones to pick. So what I'm showing you here is my dermatologist. Her patient had an adverse effect to a drug, which caused a rash. But the drug code that she dropped was an unspecified code. In the clinical note, she did list the particular medication that the patient was on. So I'm just looking up in the table of medicines or the table of drugs what that adverse effect code would be for that particular drug. And I'm going to update the diagnosis code for that. So when you are a coder and you're acting like an auditor or you audit the account, it's not like a full-fledged audit, but it's more so making sure that the diagnosis code is the right diagnosis code and it's as specified as possible. You're making sure all the documentation requirements are met, like the correct date of service, that the physician's signature is on the documentation, any attestations that's needed, such as a telehealth attestation, if they're doing a telehealth visit, or if you're in a teacher facility, that they have the teacher attestation, things like that. You're making sure that everything is correct. The levels are correct. So right now I'm showing you our auditing tool for our E&M levelers. I have a provider. She's kind of newer to dermatology and she tends to level herself on the lower side. So I will make sure that I go back and audit all her E&M encounters and make sure she's picking the right level. If I don't agree with the level that the doctor has picked, then I will let them know what I found out or how I leveled the encounter and ask them if they agree with that level or not. If they agree, great. I'll go ahead and update it and change it. If they don't agree, I just leave it as is, but document the encounter that this is what I thought the level should be, and this is what the provider is decided to stick with, and just let the claim go out the door. If it's nothing too outrageous, if it's, maybe a level off, that's debatable. But if it's like they picked a level 2, a 99212, for instance, and I think it should be a 99215, that's a big difference. And so then we have to go ahead and try to figure out where the disconnect is at. But for the most part, it's usually a level or two off. They will pick like a 2. I think it's a 3 or a 4, or they would pick a 4, and I think it's like a 3. Stuff like that. No big deal, but that's where the communication with your providers are very important, because they want to make sure that, they're seeing what you're seeing and you're seeing what they're seeing. So also, when you are looking at the documentation, you want to make sure, in addition to like any E&M encounters, that if they have done procedures, that you're picking up all the procedures that can be billed out and all the medications that can be billed out. And so basically you're just looking just to make sure, okay, if everything that my provider said that they did during this encounter, that they pick up all of those charges and bill it out. Also, you are making sure that any codes that they pick are following the guidelines. So say, for instance, like DX codes, some codes have code also, some codes have code first, some codes have excludes notes. So you just have to make sure that all of those are followed. As you can imagine, clinicians are busy. They just like to document and pick what they've done. They don't want to deal with the nuances of the coding rules and whatnot. So that's where your expertise as a coder come in. You just make sure, does this DX code need anything else? Should I code anything with this code? Or did they pick 2 codes that both codes can't go on the claim form together, because the insurance company will reject it? You will have to, make sure that those rules are followed and coded correctly. And you want to make sure that you're coding to the highest specificity. So like I just showed, that the doctor picked an unspecified code, but in the note she documented a specified drug. So you just update things of that nature. If you find that a doctor picked a CPT code and you don't quite agree with it, you will query your provider, let them know your findings, your evidence, why you think this code is not the most appropriate code, and ask them, do they know of any code that would be more appropriate to fit with, the procedure that they have done. An example that I can think of off the top of my head is that, like, when my dermatologist, sometimes they will pick a wrong biopsy code. Like they will document they did a punch biopsy was performed with a punch tool, but then dropped an excision biopsy. And at that moment, I will go ahead and, address that. Just say, hey, you dropped a punch biopsy, but the documentation is showing that you really did an excision because you used this type of instrument in your op note. So do you agree that this was done? And if so, which code should I be using? And they will come back and let you know, yeah, I really did do an excision biopsy. Please update the code. Or no, I used the word incise. I went ahead and addended the note and reflected that it was a punch. It was a punch tool used and not a scalpel or what have you. Things like that. So you really have to know the description of your CPT codes in order to code effectively. So for a day in the life of a coder, you basically, in my experience, you audit the accounts, make sure all the codes are correct based on the descriptions and the coding guidelines. And then if they are, you go ahead and send the claim out the door. If there aren't, you go ahead and query your provider with suggestions or clarity, asking them for clarity, and then you move on from there. You do have some facilities that, the coders are responsible for extracting the codes, meaning that you would just get, the coding note, and you are responsible for picking those codes yourself. When I first started coding, that's how I worked. But ever since then, most of the time, we're just working in the auditing capacity. So I hope this video was what you guys were looking for. I love this video, so I will definitely do more of these videos. So I thank you guys for watching and taking interest in the day in the life of me, Kat, as a medical coder working in office. And I will look out for my next videos. I will do one a day in the life of working from home as a medical coder and a day in the life of working for a medical billing business. Have a great